And to tell us more about all this, Professor Cho Jung-hun from Ajou University joins us in the studio today. Welcome to the program.
Great to be here.
All right, so with the big day for the two Koreas fast approaching, sorry about that, South and North Korea held working level talks today at the Tongilgak. Now, although the details are not out yet because they just wrapped it up, what can we expect from this meeting today?
And as we heard from the news, I think the preparation is in full swing. And two parties are working hard to make sure that this event ends with certain degree of success. At the moment, there's no signs of any concerns. Protocols, news media, and they also try to introduce elements of surprise in a positive way so that this big event receive good media exposure as well as good meaningful outcome. So far so good, I might say. Yeah.
All right, and another big news that we heard today is about two Koreas perhaps discussing to establish a peace treaty. So what are we expecting on this front?
That is significant. That is truly significant. If we go back our clock to 1953, South Korea refused to sign a peace treaty for many, many reasons, political and geopolitical reasons. There are three steps that can resolve the tension or war of two parties. We start with truce, meaning that we stop shooting each other. Then it's followed by armistice, that we agree not to engage fighting for an extended period of time. So far, that has been done. What has not been done to formally ending this conflict is the peace treaty. So legally speaking and technically speaking, South and North Korea are still in the war stage, and we don't need any indication of re-engagement to initiate our hostile actions. But once we sign a peace treaty, it's a whole new game. So we need to inform each other if we want to re-engage our hostile activity. But it's not as simple as that, like signing a peace treaty. Remember, we have not been a party of armistice treaty. It was signed by United Nations, China, and North Korea. So there seems to be different versions of who should be the stakeholder or party to sign the peace treaty. Of course, South Korea wants to be the main party of the peace treaty, and I don't know whether North Korea has the same opinion. Whether there will be one comprehensive peace treaty with multilateral stakeholders, South, North, US, China, and others, or there will be a series of bilateral peace treaty. For example, South and North, one, and North Korea and US, the other one, and possibly with Japan as well, because Japan also didn't sign any peace treaty with North Korea. So there's many variations of peace treaty, and it has its own significance on how peace treaty is prepared and signed.
And also, U.S. President Donald Trump said that the U.S. has started talking with North Korea, quote unquote, directly. And we heard in the reports previously that CIA Director Mike Pompeo flew to Pyongyang a few weeks ago. So what kind of significance do all these latest developments involving the U.S. and North Korea carry?
Indeed, there are two important significances here. First, as news says, Mr. Pompeo has been one of the highest ranks, U.S. ranks, who visited North Korea recently. That means there has been a serious discussion on terms and conditions of the potential summit between North Korea and U.S. But more interestingly, if I may, the fact that they make it public that there has been such visit indicates that a certain degree of meaningful progress is underway. Otherwise, they will not release this visit. If you see international diplomacy, releasing those visits or as part of the prep indicates that something is going well. So Trump otherwise would have made it known. For such a failed visit. So it's a good sign.
Another good news. Now, we have that high-level inter-Korean talks coming up on Friday this week, during which the two sides are obviously expected to discuss the agenda of April 27th summit. So where do the countries stand, or where do the two Koreas stand in regards to the denuclearization issue?
The issue of denuclearization will be right and center of this party. of the summit, rather, and will be a right and center issue for North Korea and U.S. In principle, North Korea is likely to accept that Korean Peninsula better be a place of without nuclear weapons. But it's a matter of process, and it's a matter of proportionality of the reward. And when and how North Korea will receive a reward if North Korea initiate and complete the process of denuclearization. I'm not sure whether there has been any meaningful consensus on the latter part of the progress, but in principle, it's likely that both parties will agree that Korean Peninsula will be or may be denuclearized in the future.
So what are some of the possible, I guess, rewards that could be given to North Korea for denuclearization?
In large part, there could be two elements of reward. First, of course, is the security of the regime, which may be covered by the discussion of peace treaty. Peace treaty means that we do not consider North Korea anymore enemy. Likewise, U.S. will not treat North Korea as an enemy. So that means there will be a normalization of diplomacy, there will be embassy, and there will be exchange of people, all the rest of it follows. So that gives certain degree of security. The second, of course, what North Korea needs most is economic support.
Right.
And that is a lot more tricky because we had not so successful experience in the past.
Right.
So reward first and then action later. That probably the preferred mode of operation from North Korea may not be accepted by South Korea as well as U.S.
Right. So we'll have to be kind of careful with that.
Indeed.
Now, if North Korea does agree to this complete, irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, what are the chances that we might see these inter-Korean summits become regular?
I think South Korea, to say the least, has a very serious and good intention to regularize this summit. And it's a good thing. My personal experience of working on these negotiations in other setting is one of the difficult line to agree during the negotiation is we agree to meet again. So that final line is very, very tough. They don't agree to meet again unless there's certain progress.
Right.
So regularizing the summit after so many years of suspension,
right.
Signifies that both sides have a good intention to achieve something. So my personal assessment is if they agree, if North Korea agrees, irreversible and comprehensive denuclearization, South Korea may well agree to make this inter-Korean summit regular.
So, I mean, what progress then might we see in regards to the reunions of separated families from the Korean War?
This is one of the likely and acceptable cards of engagement from South Korean society as well as international community. So, and it's not so complicated issue either.
Compared to denuclearization, right?
Indeed,
yes.
even with the presence of all kinds of sanctions, because it's a humanitarian issue. So it does not violate any of the sanctions that international community as well as U.S. has imposed at the moment.
So then what are the chances that we might see the two sides discuss bilateral economic cooperation?
At the moment, close to zero.
Okay.
Both sides wanted to, I'm pretty sure. But they all know that opening the champagne too early has its own negative impact. So having a certain degree of patience might be a discussion underwater, but they will not, my prediction, if I may, is they will not formalize the discussion of economic support at this summit. As you mentioned, the regularizing the summit, second one, third one, the economic bilateral cooperation will be probably the primary subject, but not at this time.
All right. What about North Korea's human rights issue? You did mention about the family reunions, but other human rights issues that involve North Korea.
This is another thorny stone.
Right.
I'm not sure whether South Korean government has planned to or intend to, but my personal opinion is they should. If we don't discuss North Korean human rights issue, others will. Likely U.S. will raise this issue, and it will make the bilateral cooperation even more challenging.
Okay.
So it's better for us to initiate the discussion of human rights. We will not ask to resolve all kinds of human rights issues North Korea has at the moment overnight. But we need to set our record clear that human rights issue is one of our agenda, and also we provide reasonable and sensible pathway to resolve it that North Korea can accept. And also persuade North Korea that the terms and conditions that we offer is a lot more amendable, if I may, than that from other international community.
And human rights issues involving North Korea is very much important to, like you said, the U.S. and as well as Japan too, right?
It is indeed. And there's no point to put a blind eye on human rights issues, because others will raise. And if that is the case, then South Korea will be in a lot more difficult position to balance between human rights violation of North Korea with the economic cooperation. In international community, economic cooperation and human rights has to go hands in hand.
All right. So talking about Japan, we know Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is in the U.S. to meet with President Trump to talk about issues regarding bilateral trade as well as North Korea, obviously. So what probably came out of that meeting?
I think in terms of significance of that summit, the fact that they have discussed North Korea and they have made a press release together is a lot more important than the content itself. What Japan wanted to make sure is to have a good seat on the table.
Right.
And U.S. basically nod to that request. You will have a seat on the table. And of course, there will be a good line of communication between two countries. And of course, South Korea will also cooperate closely with U.S. as well as Japan. So that line of partnership, once again, has been reconfirmed.
It's kind of, that line of alliance is kind of in contrast to North Korea's alliance with China and Russia too, it seems.
Indeed. However, that kind of a dichotomy of two alliances conflicting each other may not be so healthy to resolve this tension. So for South Korea, we try to have a more arrows hitting each other instead of formalizing one party from other.
All right. And we also have the hotline between the leaders of the two Koreas to be set up this week. So, I mean, it is significant that the two leaders will be able to talk to each other directly, but what other significance does this event carry?
It is indeed somehow, it's a welcoming news, but I welcome this with sense of sadness, because having a hotline, even with opponent, opposing or hostile nation, is normal practice in international community.
Right.
The fact that we have stopped this hotline for many years shows that how serious the situation has been. So I'm glad that we're back to normal. And to explain a little bit more the importance of this hotline, it actually significantly reduced the chance of unintended conflict that might arise from unexpected events, because that resolves the possibility of misinterpretation of others' action. And especially if this hotline is at the level of President and Kim Jong-un of North Korea, is even better.
All right.
So I hope that they will pick up the phone more often than not.
Yeah, we hope so too. Thank you so much for your insight today.
Thank you very much for having me.